Hey, Monday morning again, DJ. We got a whole bunch of stuff to talk to you about today when it comes to the podcast and what we're doing and us going live and all that. We got some strategies, but today, more importantly, um, really want to look at this idea, especially in our industry, right? Because it's a 24/7, 365. It's so tough. I mean, I don't know about you, DJ, but I mean, I don't know how many times I've been on vacation
Oh,
and
man.
still been working. And really,
Yes.
when not taking breaks hurts our ambition, our drive, our goals, and our overall success. To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
So
I
that
see the
little
DJ hand in the background going like
so
this,
that
saying
so that
DJ's got
little
to
intro
DJ's
does
coming out saying something.
exactly. It gets me going. That little intro does get me going. But and also seeing Austin back there, throw that out there. Good morning, Austin, man. Thanks for joining us early.
Yeah,
Obviously,
Austin's
this
back.
this show couldn't have come at a better time because I am feeling that burn you're talking about, man.
Okay, well, you know what? Then
I'm
let's
dragging
rile
today.
you up. Let's rile you up. So here's the thing. Um, do you want to share your story first? Or do you want me to share my story first?
No, no, go ahead, go ahead.
Okay.
Take the floor.
So, being obviously a business owner, a salesperson myself, um, having a big goal, a big dream, a big ambition. Like my mission is to help 10,000 sales reps generate over $1 million GP in a year. That's my mission.
Love it.
And I will move mountains. I will blast through entire valleys in order to get to it. And with that drive, for all of you that know me, I'm consistently testing new things. And so not only am I trying to help salespeople get there, but I'm also testing new things to help give that to salespeople in order for them to get there. Because I don't rest on just because the strategies that I used help me do it doesn't mean that they're valid in today's market, right? So I'm
Absolutely.
constantly aware of that because I've been around DJ. I've had enough managers to know when you take your finger off the pulse, you lose all reality of
Yes.
what's going on in markets. So I'm still selling, I'm still closing deals, I'm still working out deals. With my students, I jump on sales calls with them and I help them close deals because I want to be involved. And for those of you that know, I had surgery on my hand, not last Thursday, the Thursday. So yeah, not last Thursday, Thursday before. So like call it a week and a half ago from the time of this recording. And my wife said to me, you should probably take Thursday, Friday off. And it was like, okay, well, I'll take Thursday off because I'm in surgery, but I can't take Friday off. And like my Friday was jammed. Like it was meeting after meeting after meeting. And now some of you might say, well, I can't. And I've said it before, but the reality is we can schedule meetings around when's best for us. So, and the reason I'm saying all of this to you is because something happened to me. And over the last week, I've had a lot of time to think about it. I had a lot of really big deals on the go. And I feel because I didn't take the Friday off, and this is for everyone listening and watching, this is no excuse. I am a big extreme ownership person. I take it fully on my own, hand that this is
Absolutely.
my fault because I didn't take the time off. I should have. But I completely screwed up two deals. And they were fairly large deals. But more importantly, because I screwed them up, those salespeople don't have the opportunity
Hey, good
to
morning,
to
Jasper.
collapse timelines, in my opinion, because
Mm,
they're not going to be part of the program. Now, these well, it was actually one company and one individual, but so this one company had a group of 6 or 7 salespeople they were going to put in to the program. So there's or seven people that I could help collapse timelines, build a bigger abundance, more abundance for their family, and I feel like I screwed it up. Now, my head wasn't quite there because of the pain medication I was on, but still, I should have been that person to listen to my wife. And honey, I love you. You're my soulmate, and you're always right. That's fact. Listen to my wife and take the time off because I feel if I would have done that, I wouldn't have made the screw ups that I made.
yep.
Right. Um, Not to mention, there's been some times where my wife and I have been on vacation, and my wife is a diehard like I am. It's probably why we get along so well. But I remember we were in like the Caribbean Sea, and we're going from one port to the next. We're on this kind of 7-day cruise where we stopped at 6 different places, right? and we're sitting on the balcony. I mean, we're out in the open sea. It's a beautiful day. And I turn around and she's on her laptop and I'm on my iPad. And what are we doing? We're checking emails. And I'm responding to the team and I'm going back and
Yeah.
all of these things, DJ. And it's, I think at a certain point, especially for us in logistics, like I don't know about if there's some of you watching or listening from other industries, like logistics is 24/7, 365,
Oh,
right?
gosh.
If
You're
if
surprised.
we have that perspective about it. And I think that's what the big difference is here. So for me, um, I started really thinking and saying, okay, like when is it that you got to take time and step back, right? Because I've got this telephoto lens. Like I'm looking so far into the future, DJ, with that how I can know I can help all these sales reps really live the life that their dreams that they really want to live. And how do I kind of change the frame to a panoramic view? Because I think when we do that, it becomes a better tool for us to say, okay, like I look at it like this: if I would have taken one day off, I would have been 8 people ahead on my ability to help achieve my goal and to help them achieve their goals. Does that make sense?
Well, and I think, and so I'm glad you shared that because I think that's one of the battles that we have. Any kind of high performer that really has the high goals like you have of helping the million people or the million sales reps reach the goals and whatever the goal is, especially anybody watching us now. I'm sure they feel the same way, and they're constantly. That's why they're watching us. They're constantly trying to improve themselves, improve their craft. But I think at a time like we have to hard this is the moments these are the moments when we have to be hard and really judge ourselves and judge the production that we're giving, because sometimes I think it's the same battle or the same talk they have about the 4-day work week versus the 5-day work week, and how that extra day off kind of helps you re-energize, give you that energy, and for especially in our industry, yeah, it's 24/7, especially if you're just starting out, just building your book. Maybe you don't have the growth you're at, you don't have LCs or assistants or an ops team that's handling everything. So you are literally you're the sales guy, you're the ops guy, you're everything. And I think, and then you're trying to sit here and watch two knuckleheads like us talk about what helped what
Well, I
helped
mean,
you.
like, you go even further than just knuckleheads like us. You're trying to better yourself
Yeah, absolutely,
in
exactly. You're
every
trying
which
to
way.
perfect your craft whenever you're not working, and so you and I'm the first one. I will drive myself to destruction. I mean, I couldn't even keep my eyes open yesterday at around 7 o'clock and during the day. I'm like, I'm done. Like I can't. But and that's where I think what made us talk about this subject was those 2 or 3 days that I was just out of it, but still just pushing myself. If I would have taken that break, taken that rest, say, hey, whoa, 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 your motion doesn't equal progression all the time, and good production isn't always, or production isn't always good production. And so if we're not feeling it at that moment, we got to be honest and just be like, hey, look, let's take a break for a minute, recoup, re-energize, and get focused back on what the goal is. But I think
Hmm.
that just taking those little moments, man. Ah,
Well, I mean,
sometimes.
you look at, so I'm not sure if this is Ryan because sometimes Ryan comes up, he doesn't, but he says, great topic.
Yeah,
Having to work on vacation when I was cradle to the grave was a sign I needed to move to another company. And I
absolutely.
agree with that. I think that, I mean, listen, I have a friend of mine. We've talked about it before, where he wasn't doing really well at a certain company. He went to another company where they said, okay, we got this, and this. I need you to focus on this. The guy's killing it, right? So there's that ability where, but that I think comes back to like lack of confidence in your team or the team's lack of ability to get things done, which is imperative as a sales rep, like imperative as a sales rep that, like, listen, if you're a sales rep listening to this, you got to have full faith in your team, your company, your managers, like yourself, or else you hear it in your
I mean, even
voice.
even even more than that, not just sales. I think if your job is not, and you guys are going to know. I mean, that
Career,
the hard labor
career,
guys, anybody who
career.
career, yes, yes, your career is. Thank you for fixing that. but your
That's
job,
okay.
career, whatever. Again, if it's physical, then obviously no. But most jobs, doctors, I mean, they're not sales, but it's mental. So anything that's mental, man, sometimes you got to focus on your mental kind of feeling at that moment, because if you're just trying to push through the motions, and you're like us in sales, is very mental. I mean, it's 99% mental. There's no physical
Oh,
to it. You do it.
100%.
And, and
I know a buddy of mine, Trevor. He's number two in North America for strength training and conditioning. Like he was the guy that went over to Russia to train the training team on how to train the players. Like that high
wow,
up in the personal,
wow.
um, you know, physical and strength development and all that. And he says, Dan, he goes, I spend probably 85% of my time in research. He goes, and I literally, and this is I think this is an even bigger key point for us as the human 101. Like there'll be systems 2.0, 3.0, 4.0. There'll never be a human 2.0.
Nope.
He said, like I literally, there's times where I have to take a break just from research. Like just
Yes.
from reading, just from consuming content, just from consuming information, he says, because my brain gets so overwhelmed. And I'm
Yeah.
a huge advocate. You know that. Everyone who listens to me knows that. Like education, education, every day learn something, every day get better.
Yeah.
And some days we have to take a break from that too, because
Absolutely.
it's I mean, I know for me, and again, I can only speak for me, but I'm sure you go through a day, I'm sure everyone listening that's a high performer goes through it, where I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm like, oh my Lord, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And then I'm up for the rest of the night with this idea. And I
Yep.
lie in
Yep.
bed, and Christine, my wife, she often says, get out of bed and just go write it down. But I'm lying in bed, I'm like, but if I get out of bed, I'm going to be
Yeah.
awake. But I'm
Yeah.
awake anyway, so I have to learn to get
Yeah.
out of bed. So I keep my cue cards by my bed,
Oh yeah.
and I just kind of write on them. And again, for me, for the last week and a half, like today is the first day I actually was able to write, and I put a post out on LinkedIn with my normal morning mindsets that I do. And it looks like a 2-year-old wrote it, but I'm like, I got to get it out there but that frustrating part, right? Where in the moment it's like, oh my gosh, this is a great idea. This will really help. And you start going through the idea. And
Yeah.
then on the flip side of it, at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock the next day, I get frustrated because I'm like, if I would have just fucking slept, I
Mhm.
wouldn't feel like this. Like
Yeah.
all, so for those of you that might hear that and feel it, like something as simple as just surgery on my hand, and I don't mean to keep going back to this, but I really want you to feel this. Like all last week, as of like 2 o'clock on, I felt um, dead, like
Mm.
exhausted.
Yeah.
Like last week, there was probably
Very.
4 out of the 5 days where I went and kind of lied in bed and fell asleep, like lied down on the couch, fell asleep in the middle of the day, and I wake up, and of course, what's the thing I think of? Oh my God, I'm so far behind.
Yep.
And then it's like I'm right back into the insane rush of things, instead of taking 2 or 3 minutes to or 2 or 3 days to say, hey, listen, it's just a cut in the hand, unfortunately, with the pain meds that go along with it and everything. You know what? I'm better just to do.
That's irritating.
Yeah, and you know what? And yeah, you know what? I think that there's a little bit of this too in it, and daylight
Yeah.
savings
Agree.
time fatigue is no joke. I do believe that's part of it. But I also believe from a bigger portion of it is, when do we turn off? When do we actually turn off as a logistics sales reps? So all of you that are listening and watching,
Well, especially when we have these handy wherever we're sitting.
why,
You
yeah.
know what I'm saying? I
Hmm.
mean, you're always, oh crap, what about this? What am I looking up? What about next? If you're anything like it sounds like you are, and I am, and I'm sure everybody, like I said, who's watching us, Ryan, Jaspel, Austin, all of these guys watching us, they're all just trying to further their careers, trying to achieve their big dreams, big goals. But
Hmm.
yeah, we gotta remember that, we're driving ourselves into the ground. The
Hmm.
we're gonna
Well,
we're,
listen,
the
DJ,
production
there's
stuff
there's
there.
no question about it. It's work, right? Like when we are trying to achieve the extraordinary, we have to go the extra mile. You hear about it
Right.
all the time. A lot of the people I follow, like the Jackos of the world, the Rocks of the world, the Gary V's of the world, like all these people are like, dude, you gotta put 10x the effort, right? The Grant Cardone's like
Absolutely.
10x the effort. But I also see it as, or I'm starting to see it, and I only actually, it's like the last week that I'm actually starting to really see it, is you do, but there's also, we have to figure out a way to go click and turn it off, right? And so, I don't know what that is. I'm not going to
Wait,
pretend to
wait,
anyone that I'm like some expert at it, because I still stay up
no. No.
probably out of 7 nights, four
Oh yeah,
nights.
I make so many bad decisions too. Like I'm not preaching to anybody that I am the master of all of what I'm saying either. But I do know, and to your point, yes, you're absolutely right. But I think even more than that, we have to remember our why. We talk about our why a lot, and why we're here and why we're doing it. If all we're doing, our why is our family, and for most is your family, your kids, your wife, your other person, your husband's, your significant other. Um, but that if that's why we're doing it, why we're killing ourselves, we also have to remember to turn that off, to focus there, and to focus on ourselves. Because we only have one life here. That's what we have to remember. We all a lot of the good motivators you brought up, and we bring up all the time. Grant, I forget who really started it, but we all have 24 hours in a day. Even the richest, even the Oprahs of the world, the Mark Zuckerbergs, the Bill Gates, the anybody you can think of, we all have the same 24 hours in a day, and how we use those is the difference of where we get. But I think even more than that, it's really focusing on why we're doing it to begin with too, and keeping that there.
Yeah, but there's, and I agree with that. It just, and maybe this is something, maybe some of our listeners can help us. Maybe the conversation between you and I. Um,
Yeah,
I see there's a big difference, because for us, we have to accomplish things between 9 and 5,
yeah,
right? Like, and for us as sales reps, and I'm speaking specifically for sales reps, like ops and dispatch can go till 7 or 8, 9 o'clock at night. But see, even 7 or 8, 9 o'clock, like the difference between like a Zuckerberg is they can code for 24 hours. They can
yeah,
run shifts for
yeah,
24 hours. You make a sales call to a traffic
yeah.
manager on his cell phone at 7 o'clock at night, you're probably not getting very far, right? You try, you send an email at 11 o'clock at night. You can do that. And I've done that before, because there was a time when I would sit up in bed and send intro emails until midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, and then I go to bed and wake up in the morning. That
Yeah,
has happened. Um, but we are trying, as a sales rep, we are trying to crunch so much into a fraction of that time, right? Like if you're a
right.
digital marketer, you put your stuff out on the web, you do your Facebook ads, you do your Instagram ads, you do your TikTok ads, you do all your ads. And while you're sleeping, people come and look at it. So you're
Correct.
exponentially increasing your reach, right? For us as
Absolutely.
sales reps, and what I've found, and by all means, all y'all that are watching and listening, comment on this,
Yeah, yeah.
because it's
Please.
important. But what I've found is, like, I would go into work, and it's okay. So from 10 till 12, I'm closing my door and I'm going to sell. And at like 9:45, a challenge comes up, and
Yeah,
you're like, oh, okay. If I go into selling and I cut off all communication with the outside world for 2 hours because I need to focus, is my customer going to think I'm letting them down? Right? As a salesperson, those are real thoughts. These are real feelings we have, because like, oh, I can, and immediately it's like, okay, I can't, because I need to help my client. The challenge is you're building your business to this, like, this is your ultimate goal. You're up here. And let's say right now you're here. You're somewhere, a third, maybe half of the way. And that's what I call the plateau,
yeah.
because we consistently want more. And at the end of the day, we're mentally drained because we're not transitioning properly during our day. We're allowing other people's false emergencies to strangle our energy. And we come out at the end of the day and we're like, damn, man, I wanted to make 4 hours worth of calls today. And I was so busy I couldn't.
Right.
And that day leads to a week. The week leads to a month. The month leads to 6 months or a quarter. And then all of a sudden, and again, personally, I can only speak, I would like trash every single lead in my system, because you're at a point where If I
Yeah.
call them, it looks even worse than if I don't call them. And it's like, and it's tough, right? You're trying to
Yep.
you're trying to build image, credibility, and brand with customers, with new prospects, while you're trying to maintain relationships with customers and build that piece. And there's all these variables. And again, those who watching that maybe aren't in logistics are going to say, Dan, it's not just logistics; it's every industry. I can only speak for logistics because literally that in construction is all I've ever done in my life. So, well, and buffering pewter keychains, but I mean, yeah, skilled. But you know,
I'm sure that takes some skill.
it does, and I don't mean to offend anyone that buffers pewter keychains for a living, but that for me was probably the biggest challenge in business was how do I consistently grow, right? I mean, this is the whole reason I went back to, or I got away from the agent scenario where I would control all my ops, right? At first, it was like, this is great because I can make way more money than the usual commission.
Yeah.
And at first, when you only have a couple, when you're just building your business, it's like, this is great, this is great. But I mean, there was a point where, gosh, for like 3 weeks in a row, I was trying to get out to see customers and prospects to close deals. And as I'm about to walk out the door, something goes wrong, or there's a challenge, or something happens, not necessarily
Yeah.
suppliers bailing on you, but there's a challenge, or a new customer says, hey, this emergency came up, we need this load covered right away. And it's like now you've got that weight of new business versus a customer that already has
Yeah.
business that I gotta provide value for, right? And we're
Absolutely.
we're on this constant teeter totter. And I think for most of us, DJ, and as I say it, like it's forming in my brain that for most of us, I think this is why we don't take too much time off, or this is why when we're off, we're checking in as a salesperson. For me, I just, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it, I was probably wanting to always show customers that I was there
Yeah.
because I was like, for me, that's the big thing is like, hey, listen, that was kind of what I sold at the beginning was I'm always available. Like 24/7, 365, I'm available. Like this
Yep.
thing would be beside my bed when customers would call at 6 a.m. or whatever. I was
Oh
up. If
yeah.
they
No
needed
doubt.
updates every 2 hours, I'd sleep in the office and update them every 2 hours. Like, but you know, when you look back, it's like, okay, that every 2 hour update is not my ideal client. So I probably shouldn't have had that. Like, I mean, but again, you sit back with that panoramic view, right? And that's why I'm using the analogy of, telephoto lens where I come right in, or we do the panoramic view where we see everything.
Yep.
And it's like, okay. And I guess, and sometimes I guess we can't as sales reps if I do this, will this happen? If I do this, will this happen? I look at it and I say that Friday that I screwed up, if I would have taken one day off, I would have been 9 or 10 steps closer to my goal,
Mm.
right? To help 10,000 sales reps. Not only that, those 9 or 10 people would have been closer to their goals, right?
Mm.
And so now it takes a different level, is because now I'm beating myself over the head because I'm not going to be there to help them achieve their goals,
Yep.
right? To help them collapse their timelines. And that's where the passion for what we do comes in.
Absolutely.
And, I don't necessarily know the answer. I mean, I guess the answer is take time, let everybody know this is what I'm doing. Um, you know, build your team to the point where you can do it and you can step away without having the feeling that something's going to screw up. Be available, but maybe create, and again, just off the cuff, right? Maybe create yourself kind of like how we have for like COVID, where it's like red, orange, green,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and almost like a level of
Where
disaster
you're
as
at.
to when
Yeah.
you're available. Because the reality is, DJ, I mean, listen, my wife and I were on a cruise ship. There was internet. We got an internet package, right? Like I don't think it at this point in time in the world we're ever disconnected. We
Yeah.
can
No.
disconnect, but we are not disconnected. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there could be this, okay, text me with like a code word or something to know it's like disastrous and I got to get involved. And I think no matter your spouse, your partner, your family, it's like, listen, there is a complete disaster happening. Normally I wouldn't, but there's a complete disaster happening. I got to go. As opposed to me, who was literally everywhere I went, the laptop would be with me and I
Yeah.
would be sitting on the beach. And listen, don't get me
I've
wrong. I
done it too.
often say,
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
but DJ, I was like, hey, I'm on vacation. I'm not stressed. I'm just keeping up to what's going on. And then the other part of me is like, why am I doing that? There's something inside
Yeah.
that's not that's the telling me I need to do that. So is it lack of trust? Is it the cat's away so the mice will play kind of scenario? Like
Yeah.
there's all these different kind of things hitting you as and again we go back to the reality of it, right? We lose a customer as a team, right? We lose a customer. I'm the only one that feels it. And that's a real conversation in salespeople's heads because ops gets their salary. I'm a commission sales rep. And as a commission sales rep, I'm the one that loses when we lose a customer long term, right? Ops people might not get a bonus or whatever it is from an individual like department. But as a sales rep, we lose long term. And I think that's probably got a lot to do with why we're like, we need to be so hands on.
Yep.
But that hands on actually chokes our long term fulfillment of our goals, dreams, desires, and ambitions. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, where you're burning yourself out to where the production, because you're wanting to hold on so tight. You're actually hurting yourself really in the end.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, I agree.
It's
I agree.
interesting.
I think that's yeah. I think that's a struggle for any business owner really. A lot of even just small business owners,
Well,
they're
and here's the thing: as a sales rep, a logistics sales rep that is on
you, you,
commission, you're a business owner.
you are a business owner.
You own a
And
business
I'm so
inside the corporate shell
And I'm
of
so
that
glad
business
you
you work
said that.
for.
Yeah, I think we because our name isn't the name, in most situations, me myself. I mean, I have an LLC that I'm under, but I'm representing the bigger picture of somebody else, like a lot of us might be. But in the end, we are, and I think we forget that and
Ah,
just go to that.
absolutely.
Oh, we're a sales rep, but we are a business owner, and that's why we're so in this career, especially depending on what level you're at and where you're at, that why it is a career and not just a job. um and it can be, and again, we do shows on that, and we'll talk about that more, and even this can be a job if it's not your passion, but that's a whole nother it's a whole nother show. But
But I
yeah.
mean, but I mean, here's the reality of every commission sales rep, no matter what, is you run a business that doesn't require going to a bank to get any financial support, right? Whether you're being paid personally or through an LLC, it really doesn't matter. You have to run your sales business as a business, meaning as a business, you have certain amount of time that's spent on marketing, certain amount of time that's spent on sales, certain amount of time that's spent on R&D, certain amount of time that like businesses have these core pillars that they must do. Now, they might hire people for it or whatever, but
Absolutely.
you think about it like this. Ideally, as a sales rep, I've been through every kind of thought process. And when I had my company, I tried multiple things, right? You have openers, you have appointment setters, all things are possible for us in the logistics world. You could hire a virtual assistant, 100 bucks a week, 200 bucks a week, you know, for $800 a month to just set up appointments with you when you figure out a system, right? And it's possible. You can do it. Even in logistics, you can do it because you're setting up the appointment. Then you have the conversation, you double qualify. But now what's happened is you've just freed up 2 hours of your day to work on your business instead of in your business because somebody's bringing you appointments. Somebody's bringing you scheduled calls. But we don't think in that respect because, oh well,
Yes.
that's kind of like a digital thing. Like people that want to set up demos do that. But why can't we? Right? Like why can't we say, okay, I'm going to give up $800 of my hard-earned money a month, or $400 of my hard-earned money a month, to get somebody that's going to bring me 6 qualified meetings a week, 5 qualified, 3 qualified meetings a week. And if you close 2 out of 10, and those 2 are worth 2 grand a month, you pay out 800 to make 2. That's a good deal. Like I would
Absolutely.
do that. I would do that 10 times a day to do that, right? But I don't think we, oh, here we go. Yeah,
Yeah.
so outside prospecting activity, that's outside the box thing. Exactly. And here's the thing is it's a matter of us as the individuals that have a specific client profile, right? Like that is the nucleus of everything. So your client profile is the center. Your team has to believe in that client profile. Your
Mm,
managers have to understand that client profile. I would even go so far as to say colleagues have to know what your client profile is. And the reason I say colleagues, because you're going to be talking to one of them about a customer, and you're like, oh my God, this customer, and they're going to ask you a question, be like, yeah, man, we just got to drop $50. And they're going to go, hold up. That's not your customer profile,
yeah.
because we get caught up in it as sales reps. But if we look at it and we say, okay, one customer's worth $1,000 a month. Let's just hypothetically, like just low end, $1,000 a month. Out of that 1,000, I'm making 300 because I'm on a 30% commission, right? The industry, typical industry is 30, 35% to the rep, 70% to the company. Let's just operate under that perspective. I know, DJ, you're an agent, so the agent is a little bit different, but you handle all your own ops and all that kind of stuff. But let's just baseline it, okay? So if you get two new customers a month, that is $600 a month, okay, in your jeans. So why don't we say, okay, this month or for the next 3 months, I'm going to spend $300 of my own money to see if I can get the $600 back. And if I can
Yep.
double that, then when I do it, then when I get the $600 back, you say, okay, now I'm making $600. What I'm going to do is I'm going to double my output. I'm going to spend $600, and in the next 6 months, I'm going to make $1,200 back.
Yep.
And then, or maybe you want to jump. Maybe you want to say, I'm going to spend $1,200. I'm going to reinvest in myself because this is working. Let's double down, triple down on it. And then you're going to spend, $1,200 a month to make 2,400, right? Then you spend 2,400 to make 4,800, and it just keeps going and it keeps leveling up. That leveling up is how us as sales reps get to do more and accomplish more in a day because we are working in a finite time frame. So then maybe you get two people doing it. Then maybe you say, okay, how else do we do it? Maybe everybody, like with the tools we have today, Calendly, HubSpot, a Google Calendar. You just share your calendar and people plug things in.
Yep.
Good friend of mine, Nicole Glenn, she gave me her calendar link. And this is my HubSpot calendar link. She goes, don't even bother calling me. You want to talk to me? Plug it in.
Nice.
Done. Well, it's what I do with my students.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
one of my students have access to my calendar for 30 minutes free with Dan. And all they have to do is go in and go click, 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 done. And they're booked in with me.
Yeah.
Because I believe now, as a customer, I like, and maybe it's just my perspective, but when somebody's soliciting me, and I say, yeah, you know what? That's interesting. So, perfect example. I had a VR, a VA or a virtual assistant, contact me and say, hey, listen, I'd like to book you 3, 4, 5 meetings a week. And I'm like, interesting. Okay, I've already got one. I'm doing it all myself, testing the different parameters. But my idea is once I'm done, I'm releasing it to a virtual assistant. So that frees me up to maybe create more programs, create more cool stuff, do more different testing while they're utilizing that one thing that I use that's
Well, see,
working.
I think what you're touching on there is really the difference, and I kind of mentioned it, and I think my brother is really who I heard this from first. But he taught when he was teaching an employee. He was just my brother was working with a young kid. Is just in the warehouse, just an employee working the warehouse, not even on the sales floor. This is at a flooring company, and he tells him, he could see the motivation in this kid, and he's like, well, you got to stop thinking and working this way. You think like a manager. Don't think like an employee. Think like a manager.
Mhm.
And if you don't know how because you haven't done that position or you don't know what they're expecting, that's a perfect time to ask them. What are you worried about? What just like we do for our customers. So you ask your manager, well, what do they bitch at you about? I mean, just go straight to it. 8 Mile it. What is the regional or the district or whoever is about the next step up? What do they bitch at you about? What are you focused on? What are your goals? So that you as an employee can start thinking that way. And then you work your way up. And what you were just giving us a rundown, and I think it's just another great topic for another show, is just that difference and that transition from the employee mindset to the manager mindset, and then from
I'd
the
even
manager
go a step
mindset
higher,
to the
DJ, and
owner.
go to a
Yeah.
CEO mindset. Yeah.
Well, the CEO and then the owner. Yeah. I mean, what you were giving us is the inside view of what, if you've owned any business, started any business like you have, like I have, I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about. But that's where, even as employees, even if you haven't, or you don't see your brokerage as a business, that might be the difference. You're still looking at this as
Mm.
through with that employee hat on, instead of the ownership hat or the manager, if you want to take it up to there. And the manager is really just, you become a manager once you have a team. I mean,
Hmm.
let's just,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know, we as a brokerage, this is a business, even on the lowest level. As if you're handling all the ops, you're handling all of it yourself as an
Hmm.
agent like myself. But then you are, once you think outside and take that employee hat off, and like you're saying, then find the positions and plug in the ops team, build an ops team. If the company you're partner with has an ops team, even better.
DJ, there's even a step further, and I apologize to interrupt you, but
No,
as a
no, you're good.
sales rep, right? So as a sales rep, when I first started, I was gung ho about traveling. I was gung ho about sales. Like I was that guy that would just phone call after phone call after phone call. No, 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 no. I just keep pounding. I had a friend of mine who wasn't that guy, but he was like a killer ops focused person. So we got together. He had a pretty big book of business. I had a pretty big book of business. We had a conversation one night over some beers, and we decided to partner up. And for close to a decade, that was like, until I moved, that was an amazing partnership.
Yeah,
And what happened is I would do all the sales, he would do all the ops. So, and what I mean by that is he would make phone calls, he would set up appointments, I would make phone calls, I would set up appointments, but I would travel 3 months, 3 weeks a month kind of thing, and go and make all the sales, close the deals, bring them into our book of our group of business. When I
yeah,
left that company, I left all the business with him because I'm not taking food off his table, but he's still, 16 years later was dealing with a lot of the same customers.
that's
And
awesome.
what it was utilizing both of our core, like,
Your strengths.
strengths
Yeah,
and everything.
exactly.
And I've said this to numerous salespeople when I was training them. I've said this to like, why don't we connect? Why don't we join forces? Like, I even do it with students. I say, listen, I'll give you an account. Just we'll work out a deal and we're done. Like,
Yeah,
we join forces. And I think that is the key piece of the puzzle that maybe as sales reps, we don't think. Like, is there somebody else in our, and so when I first started high performance logistics sales, what I did was I created a group. And in that group, I hired somebody specifically to sell because I was too busy managing the group and building the infrastructure in the group. I hired somebody to bring in accounts or bring in possibilities of meetings, and they would just set up meetings all day long, right? So think about it from as a sales rep. If you go in and you have a colleague that is loves that introduction, loves that opening, and you love closing, you're now meshing your core strengths. And if you
yeah,
get along great and you have an understanding, then as a corporation, I mean, some don't let you do this. It's a shame, but
yeah,
they really should, where you say, listen, we're going to split it 50-50 the account. We're going to manage the ops teams together and we're going to create a group. I
yeah,
remember at the company I was at, there was a salesperson that was consistently crushing it left, right, and center, like to the level that most people would never even dream of in logistics. He
yeah.
had a right hand. This right hand set up all his meetings. This right hand booked his flights. This right, like he had literally an
Nice.
assistant. And the thing is, so I looked at it and I went to my team lead and I said, how do we do this? Like, how can I give you more, take more off my plate to allow me to build the business? And then we create like a mega structure business. And my team lead and I came up with a plan and we implemented and it worked. Like,
Yeah,
just the one I gave everyone, just that virtual assistant, wherever, book them for 3 hours a week to
yeah.
start,
Just try it out.
$60 a week to start for two times a month, like part-time. If you get two or three quality meetings for $60, that's like $20 a meeting. But for you, what is that time worth? That
Yeah.
time can be compounded. So if you get, you free yourself up for 2 hours a day to go and block that time out, maybe you
Hmm.
do a better follow-up, because now you're not trying to get all this done in such a short period of time. Now you can literally zoom in with that telephoto lens. Or you say, okay, you know what, for 2 hours every day, I'm going to pick a customer every day where I'm going to call them and I'm going to do a deep dive investigation on their business, on their 2022 goals, on all of this stuff. Frees you up while you've got appointments being booked, right? That's and as this conversation's unfolding, I mean, initially we started with old breaks and what it is to take a break and everything, but I think that gives you a break, right? Like,
Absolutely. Well,
for
and
these
it
two
goes,
hours, I'm going to go take a walk because
it,
somebody else is prospecting for me.
and really, it just goes back to what when we talk. I think I mentioned it last week on one of the shows. It's that judging and really putting a value on your time, and then if you can find another source to do that task, like you're saying, the prospecting, the setting up the appointments, and the cost you can recoup, but even more, the time that you recoup from that is obviously more valuable to what you
Wow.
can do, either by getting a little bit extra break or putting more focus and effort into those specific things that only you can do in your business. I mean, that's the difference between success and failure, really.
hmm I could tell you because I've just went through it, right? Again, one finger typing for days, not being able to write. And when I'm writing, I'm like, I'm holding the pen so loose, and I'm like, what? I can't even read that. Like, I remember saying to Christine, like, it just feels like everything's taking 20 times longer. So if you already have so much crammed in a day, because in our heads we're like, I could do this, 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 no problem, not a problem whatsoever, and then you can't. You For me, that's full transparency. That's my day. I overpack my days because I sit there and I say, okay, every week I do a YouTube video, and I know it takes me, and I know you'll probably freak out about this, but it takes me close to 6 hours to edit a 15-minute video.
Holy
Just
cow.
Yeah, just with the different, like, you click and then you enlarge and then you go back and you're like, okay, what kind of
Oh
music am I
my
going to play, and
gosh.
what points am I going to emphasize and everything.
When
So
when we
like
need somebody to do that for you, is there any video
well,
out there
but
that
here's the thing is I don't
does?
have it down yet. I don't
Yeah,
have it down yet, right? Like, I don't have the framework completely down yet. But the
yeah,
second I do, I'm going to outsource that.
yeah.
I'm on this new for all y'all that are a member of Inception, I'm on this new really cool strategy that I'm literally very close to finishing up probably this week, and we're going to release it next week inside our community.
Well, I like the
That's
job.
gonna
Get
Yeah,
excited,
yeah,
guys.
that is just gonna crush it. Like, I think everyone's gonna go, holy shit, this is next level sales strategy. So I'm in the middle of that. I'm in the middle of a bunch of negotiations for everyone in the high performance logistics sales community, where I'm about to strike major deals with some pretty major people for different levels of programs, where I'm going to white label their programs and bring them into our community because they're
Wow.
just the experts in it, right? And so there's all these things, and here I am going, I have to type an email, and I'm going, right, and it's driving me nuts because I'm going, oh my god, it's gonna fucking go faster, and I'm just it's like it's killing me inside, and I'm just I'm and I, my wife said to me, she said, you need to relax, like, you need to calm down, like you just, as much as it's just a cut in your hand, it's trauma. So your hand's not going to work. And we're trying to close up the everything for winter. I'm looking at my snow, and I mean, trust me, and I know I'm ranting here, everyone, but these are
No,
real
no.
issues that
I,
we all
yeah,
face with.
those are
I'm
real.
looking at my snowmobile. I need to change the sliders on it, and I can't do it. I got new hand guards. I want them to go on. I'm like wrestling with screwdrivers that I shouldn't even be doing. But it's like, I'm that person where I just can't sit, and I need to learn how to. I really do. The only time I can sit still is reading a book, which is weird because over this last week, my wife said, "Well, just start reading a book." I'm like, "Oh my god, great idea!" But I'm reading the book, and while I'm reading the book, I'm reading the words, but I'm not digesting them, which is
Mm.
the big difference between reading and really understanding. Is, for me, it's that digestion. And all I'm thinking about is, okay, I got this, Christmas lights, da, 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 all this to do. And I'm sitting here reading a book. Instead of saying, Dan, you went to surgery. Just give yourself a week. Just give yourself a week. Understand in the next week, everything's going to take you twice as long. So plan for it. Schedule it that way. Don't schedule a 5 hour edit when you know it's taking you 6 hours, and then you have one hand, so it's probably going to take you 7 or 8 hours, and schedule it in four because you're trying. You know, see what I'm saying, DJ?
Oh
So
yeah,
it's. I think we do that as high performers. I think we consistently do that because
absolutely.
we're like,
Oh
hey,
yeah,
yesterday I got 12 things done. Tomorrow I'm gonna put 14 in that bad boy because these mofo's gonna
yeah,
get done all the time. And then all these
yeah,
shenanigans come up and all these things happen, and
yep,
we get distracted. And at the end of the day, instead of focusing on the 10 that we got done, and we focus on the four that we didn't get done. Ah, man, I didn't get fucking four of these things done. And then, and for me, anyways, again, y'all might be like, Deegan, you are whacked out, but
no, no.
it's the way the
You're right,
brain
and
functions.
I think that's a struggle as a high performer. But yeah, it's this show was good. It got me motivated. I like it.
Yes,
This is a
it
good,
did.
this
Okay,
is a good
we
one
said it
today.
was going to get you motivated. So end us out with a
Oh,
DJ quote,
all right,
McBean
this is
here.
a good one. This is a good one. This is about mindset, and I thought it was absolutely. It was kind of funny. It actually showed up on my timeline as a memory from today.
Nice.
I don't know how to find those now, but on the good old Meta or Facebook or whatever y'all want to call it now. But
Metaverse.
it was from a few years ago. But it was Thomas Jefferson, good old TJ, and he says nothing can stop the man with the right mental attitude from achieving his goal. Nothing on earth can help the man with the wrong mental attitude. That's
Mm.
that is as powerful as it gets, guys. Fix it up here if you want to change it while you're down here. Have a good day, guys. Have a good week. Stay
Take care,
motivated.
everybody.